Right, let's talk a little bit about the power of mind and its expanded and conscious application. I mean, you have a reputation for having the power to move physical objects with your mind, for radically altering bacteria cells, which you talked about, and even on occasion, moving through objects or
Yeah,
something like that.
something like that.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk?
Can we talk?
I mean, what I'm getting at here is I want the audience to know what's possible.
Okay.
And a little bit about how you first discovered some of these more extraordinary abilities, if you would.
Okay. Yeah, I'm recorded for having some very unique abilities. But I would like to say right now, flat out, whatever I can do, so can you. And this is the one thing that I've been teaching for the last 28 years. Anything that I can do, so can any other human being on the planet. Right now we're in the greatest time, I think, in terms of planetary movement and involvement. We're starting to discover all of the extra universes, all of the extra worlds that people have talked about, but only in small segments. And now some of us are going into the labs and demonstrating flat out that these are not like hocus pocus realities or fake things. They're like the legitimate gig. And I myself am working in the labs to not just do it in front of people so that people can see it and go, oh wow, you can really do this, but getting it done in the labs where it can be documented and all of this stuff recorded. Altering the salmonella bacteria, a lot of people look at that as a very major step. It was like you could actually change life essence. I'll tell you how complicated that was. I can take anybody off the street with absolutely no education. I can show them what to do in less than 5 minutes, and they'll have the same results that I did. What it amounts to, I think, is education. The education is so unique in getting people to stretch their awareness, to believe that these things are even actually possible. That's where the education is at. I remembered in the 50s, people would talk about the probability of spaceships, maybe. Well, back in the 50s, I mean, there was only like about 20 or 30% of the population might even think that it was feasibly possible. And the other 70% didn't believe in it at all. Now, ask any kid on the street if there are flying saucers. Of course there are. I mean, there's a zillion things, and all the kids know it. So it looked like it's education. So that's really why I'm doing the things in the lab. Now, going through objects. There was a lot of controversy over that, so obviously, you go in the lab to do your job. I can pass through objects. And I've done that with people, with me. I've done that with people watching. I've done it in every way, shape, and form. I only do it now in the labs because most people look at it, and because you've got, some of the greatest magicians on the planet right now, that make like 747s disappear, most people just figure, well, this is a magical trick. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the opportunity to see if you've ever done this. Now let me give you an example. They say that we can pass through things, and basically I've gone out and I've proved that. Now let's take a look at that. Ever remember driving your car and you had to pull it into a parking space? And right before, you had to pull it in there, you looked at the fender of your car, you looked at the fender of their car, and you knew it was so close you would probably hit the other car. And then for some unknown reason, unknown to you, you gave it the gas and pulled in, only to say, whew, made it, didn't even touch it, didn't even scratch it. But in the back of your head, you knew it was too close to call. On those occasions when you've trusted yourself and you've pulled into the parking space, even though you kind of thought that you would hit the other car, but you never did, I'll tell you the truth of the matter is, you were too close, just like you knew. But God gave you an insight to trust yourself, and I'll tell you what you did. You placed your fender through their fender, and the molecules went through each other, and because you trusted yourself, the universe showed you an opportunity of what is really available out there. Now, all of you drift back to that, that time that you tried it, and what you'll kind of think about is like, yeah, he could be right. We were so close. I should have hit him, but I didn't. The other amazing thing is, because it is so close, rather than think a paranormal event happened, what we do is we just go into denial, and we forget about that situation. But the beauty is God will keep reminding you from time to time to time. And one of these times you're going to have a real realization that it wasn't close. You should have hit that person and you didn't. And this is when you begin to realize how particles pass through particles. And that's all I really did. I took something that we do every day in our lives, and I changed it into a scientific viewpoint. And of course, I did it on a grander scale. I put a vehicle through another vehicle, but I don't want to get confused with magic. I want to explain that consciousness is what does this. I was watching Doug Henning once on television, and this was before he retired. And for those of you who don't know Doug Henning, he was probably, I think he's one of the best magicians on the planet. And one of the tricks he did was they built a stone wall, a brick wall on the stage. And then they just had curtains around, and they said that he would walk through the wall and come out on the other side. And everybody said, well, it's a trick. Well, I watched closely with my clairvoyance, and I'm here to tell you people it wasn't a trick. He did not have a magical platform that he went underneath and came up on the other side of the wall. What I noticed was that human being had the capacity to walk straight through the wall. Now, when magicians truly discover how much power they have and how the other dimensions work, I noticed that Doug Henning sort of got out of the public eye with all of the magic. And the reason was because he became aware of what his real potential was. It's the same way with all of us. If we could see what our real potential was, we wouldn't be in such denial. And if we could trust ourselves to go out there and apply it, we would find that it would really work. Take thousands and thousands of years ago for the first person who invented steel. He made a sword that didn't break. He was considered a wizard. I mean, look at that reality today. A lot of people know how to make steel. They're not considered wizards. But the first one who came up with it, brilliant. What I know is that we can teach all of this material to anybody. It's like taking two boards, a hammer and a nail. If you show somebody how to nail boards together, they'll eventually figure out how to build a house. We think that what we're looking at is so magical and mystical, and that God, and that's where all his power comes from, and all of you have it. We've got God so far away from us. It is so magical, it is so mystical, it is so far out of our grasp that we're intimidated to go get it. Well, one of the greatest things that one of the greatest teachers ever said on this planet was Jesus. I'm sure you've read about him in the Bible. He says, "Don't you all know that you will all come and do far greater work than I?" Well, I believe that. And he also said, "Don't you all know that you're the sons and daughters of God?" Here's a man that went out, demonstrated the facts, did the exact same stuff that we're doing in the labs today, no more, no less. And now we're doing more, just like he said we would. I mean, back then Jesus brought somebody back from the dead. He brought himself back from the dead. You know, we still look at that as a profound feat, but I mean, like, how many doctors have brought people back from the dead already? So apparently it's not as hard as they think. We're still not quite sure how it's done, but we do have the insights that if you trust God, the whole essence really works. So it's really education.